Welcome back to All Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Julian. I'm here with Big Kev. EP's not here with us tonight. Unfortunately, we won't be able to hear his thoughts on what a wild divisional weekend we saw from college football, and also what we're gonna get out of tonight's college football championship game. We finally here, Kev. It feels a little dragged out, but it is Monday. It is Martin Luther King Day. We want to definitely pay our respects to the great Dr. Martin Luther King. So, um, happy Martin Luther King Day to all. Kev, it's good to be here with you. How you doing?
I'm good, bro. Good to be here. Good to happy to get on, especially after a fun weekend of NFL playoff football, and on the what an hour, 2 hours, an hour 45 minutes before national championship game. So
Yeah, and I mean, yes, if anybody's asking, why you got shades on, he don't never wear shades. Listen, I feel like the Commanders right now. I feel like KD right now. It was just a crazy upset. Jaden Daniels, I'm a fan. So um, that's all that is. Dog, let's talk about it though. I mean, we're gonna get into this college football NCAA championship game. We've been waiting, for a while now. It feels like they did have a longer playoff this season, but just to real quick get into last night. I mean, we saw a rookie go toe to toe with the best team in the league for the most part of the year. Um, we saw the Eagles, and the Rams in the snow game. We saw KC do what they do with a little extra, right? As they typically do. And turnovers was the name of last night's game versus the Ravens. So just quick thoughts on few things that stood out to you this weekend. I want to hear before we dive deep into the games specifically.
so as far as few things that stood out to me, the biggest thing that stood out to me was Washington Detroit Lions, the Detroit Lions, absolutely dominated them in the trenches. Anybody who ran the ball was getting anything they wanted. Uh, the offense as a total for Washington was getting anything they wanted. So that was the biggest thing for me. Kind of surprising that that's the way they won uh, Washington, but uh, I thought as far as just things that stuck out, that was the biggest thing for me was the way that they played. And then the second biggest thing for me was the Baltimore Ravens are a better football team than the Buffalo Bills, but they just made dumb mistakes. And it looked that way all game. Like you could tell the Ravens just were a better football team who, it's not fair to say to Buffalo either. Buffalo's a great football team, but
Right.
I thought that Baltimore had everything that they needed this year to to that, get over that hump and get Lamar and Derrick Henry to a Super Bowl. The Bills did a great job in the first half of stopping Derrick Henry. And in the second half, it's like Marshawn Lynch said, you just hit him in the face over and over and over and over and over again. And at some point, they're not going to want to tackle you anymore. And that's what it looked like in the third quarter for the Ravens. And then uh, fourth quarter, they had to kind of throw the ball more than they were able to run it. So uh, two things out to me were those two.
Yeah, that is true. We're gonna touch more back on that pause, but let's talk about this game. We have Ohio State, the eighth ranked team, versus seventh ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Whew. Will Howard, he threw for almost 4,000 yards. They have a 1,200 yard receiver in Jeremiah Smith on that side of the offense, along with another first round draft pick going to the NFL this year. But Jeremiah Love, he ran for 1,100 yards. That defense is stifling, and they got a lot of good defensive backs that want to say something about how they can stop Ohio State. Kev, this is going to be a big game, right? We have two first time uh, head coaches, and Ryan Day. This is Ryan Day's first, or
National championship game?
yeah,
I think so.
yeah, yeah. I don't believe he got here the last time because they won with Urban Meyer back in 2014.
Yeah.
So, um, and Marcus Freeman, being a younger coach as well, hasn't gotten here. And so I do want to point out, if Marcus Freeman gets this dub on Martin Luther King Day, It's a big win for the culture, and that's why I'd be rooting for Notre Dame. But let's talk about how Notre Dame can actually win this game, because I did mention, you know, All American Jeremiah Smith from Fort Lauderdale. I did mention Will Howard, who threw almost 35 passing touchdowns this year in an explosive offense, and I didn't even touch on the two running backs they have. Kev, it's going to be a big challenge for Notre Dame, in my opinion, to kind of keep up with that offense. What do you think they can do to win this game?
Their defense is going to have to control the game, and then I think they're going to have to rely. I think their receivers are kind of underrated. I believe it's Great House or
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
yeah, he seems to always make some sort of impact on the game. So I love their defensive backs. Like I think their DBs probably top in the nation as far as just a unit. So I think that going up against like you just said, two wide receivers who we know are going to end up playing on Sunday, um, when it's all said and done, it'll be interesting to see that matchup and how that goes down, especially after the talk over the week of one of the defensive backs over there saying that they'll be playing man, and
yeah,
I'm sure that
yeah.
was uh, sort of a shot at Jeremiah Smith, who said before the Tennessee game that if they play
Texas,
man, that they're taking their shots.
Texas
Uh,
game.
no, it was before the Tennessee game because that's the
Oh,
game that
Tennessee.
he
Oh,
went off.
they
Yeah,
said that.
that's the one that when Jeremiah Smith said. So, um, yeah, so that'll be, I think, the key matchup of the game is seeing how well Notre Dame fares in man coverage if they do play man coverage more of the game. If they do, I don't know, like they've got good defensive backs, but it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see against
I
that
mean,
talent.
it is interesting, but you also play to your strengths, right? If that's what you do, if that's your bread and butter, if that's what's gotten you here, you're going to want to rely on that too. And so I don't have a doubt that Notre Dame is going to be man heavy and they're going to be confident in that. It's going to be up to the receivers on the other side and Will Howard to make the throws. And it's not to say they haven't done it all year, but you know, playing a defense as good as this, it's just a new challenge. So I think on the flip side, if the defense can do their job, at least containing an offense like that, they're going to put up points. You expect them to put up almost 30 points or more per game. And can Riley Leonard, not Riley Freeman, shout out to Riley Freeman, can Riley Leonard, lead the offense on the other side uh, and make plays? I mean, similar to the way he did versus Georgia, an amazing defense, and similar to the way they did just last week versus another great defense in Penn State with a guy like Abdul Carter wreaking havoc. And so people criticize Notre Dame or Riley Leonard for not throwing as much. Only had 2,600 yards, but he adds to that run game, um, and it's just dynamic. We talked about Penn State and how they were able to have Nick Singleton and don't kill me, but I forget. I just blanked on the second one, but they had 2,000-yard rushers. You know what I
Allen,
mean?
I think.
Ty, 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 anyways, they had 2,000-yard rushers over there at Penn State, and it served them well. Now, it didn't get them to the national championship where they met their match in Notre Dame, and so it also kind of feels like Notre Dame probably meets their match today with the offense that's as explosive as they are. And Chip Kelly, Ryan Day, I think if they continue to do what they've done throughout the year, um, yeah, I don't see how Ohio State really does lose this game. But let me ask you this now. It's been a lot of noise surrounding the program. It's been a lot of noise surrounding Coach Day, specifically after the loss to Michigan. Um, what is a what since the game hasn't started? I want to talk about both sides. I don't want to assume victory for either. What would a win and a loss look like for Coach Day specifically, and his either future or just going legacy in Ohio State?
I mean, if you get the win, you get the win, and you won a national championship, and obviously, that adds to your legacy, regardless of what you accomplish from there. You're a national championship football head coach for the rest of your life. So, winning the game, that's the obvious answer. Adds to that legacy. I think kind of. I'm not going to say quiets the noise because you still got to beat Michigan, but I think it quiets the noise of the people who wanted him fired. I think
Yeah,
even at this point, it's kind of gotten to that point where it's like, okay, we're not firing Ryan Day. Um, which plays to the flip side, like what happens if they lose? And I think the answer is he's got at least next year. At
yeah.
this point, like
You gotta
I
beat
could have
Michigan next year.
yeah, I mean, you have to beat Michigan next year. But again, even if you don't beat Michigan next year and you end up in the same exact circumstance, how justified is it to fire a coach because of a regular season game?
Yeah,
Especially now that the playoff is a 12-team playoff and a regular season loss, especially at the end of the season, may not hurt you as bad. So, um, Ohio State's always going to be there. They're always going to be one of the top teams in the nation. So, um, I think I think a loss obviously hurts him, doesn't hurt him as bad as I think a win helps him or boosts him at this point. So
yeah, interesting. I do agree with you as far as the impact or lack thereof for one game in the regular season nowadays. It shouldn't be a fireable offense, even if it's a repeat offender that continues to abuse your school and bruise you, in a way that you don't necessarily see on the outside because you're still atop the Big Ten or in the playoff. But on the inside, I mean, as Buckeyes losing to the Wolverines year after year due to maybe I guess you can't only blame coaching, but at some point, you have to look at coaching. But that's neither here nor there because that game uh, wasn't the national championship, and it actually, again, we've said this multiple times, propelled them, I think, on a run and fueled more fire for them. So I'm going Buckeyes. Win in a close one, but close until it's not. But I do think Notre Dame has a chance, and I'll be rooting for Notre Dame. What do you got?
uh, I have I have Ohio State and to win, and I think they'll score 28 or more points, and you can parlay that for
Yeah.
plus 130 odds at Hard Rock Bet.
Okay. Okay. I like that because I do agree with the 28 or more and the wins. So sounds like that's right up my alley. And then I might sprinkle a anytime touchdown for. I'll keep that one to myself so I don't lose any of you guys any money.
I mean, listen, if I could, uh, in Florida, unfortunately for college sports, you can't play player props.
Oh, right, right,
Um,
right,
but
right, 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 right. See,
Jeremiah
that's how you
Smith,
know I don't bet.
well, you're not in Florida. It might be different in New York. I really don't know.
Okay.
But I know in
Okay.
Florida they don't allow it. But uh, yeah, Jeremiah Smith anytime touchdown would be on my ticket if it could be on my ticket, but it's not.
It's going to be interesting, man. He has a confidence about him that is is good. Let's talk about Detroit, though. I want to swing things to the NFL. College football, the season was beautiful. We're thankful. We got college football. The video game came out over the summer, and the new one is coming out next summer. We cannot wait for it. And we cannot wait for, spring game and the new transfers coming in and the new season. We're going to have to put it to rest after, this week because we'll talk about what happened in the game on Thursday. And then from there, we'll kind of fade it out. But NFL postseason is coming to its end as well. It's divisional weekend. You talked about a few key things that you saw this weekend, but now I want to talk more specifically about each game. And I want to start with the Detroit Lions, the number one team, the 15 win in the best conference in football, where none of those teams here are in the conference championship. And we have actually two NFC East teams in that conference championship, one being led by a rookie, the other there by a second time the championship appearance with their head coach and quarterback duo. It's a lot to say, but I mean, this Lions offense, bro, they had the most touchdowns all year, right? Jared Goff played phenomenal football for them. They had the duo running back system that unfortunately they weren't able to get to in this playoff game as much as I mean, listen, I think regardless, Montgomery back or not, he wasn't going to be everything he was at full throttle in the regular season when they had all the momentum. There were a multitude of guys. I think there was like 14 of them on the IR for that ended up on Detroit's IR this season. Robertson broke his arm yesterday. Like they were falling down like dominoes. Branch gets hurt, I feel like every game and thugs it out for the rest of the game. It's football and it's unfortunate. All you can do is compete through it. Ben Johnson is no longer their coordinator next year. It's a lot to look forward to. I'm throwing this spitball wise at you, Kev, because you saw the game, you're hearing all of this, and I want to ask you, not necessarily how did the Commanders win. We saw Jaden Daniels walk them down. Drive after drive. They ran the ball really well. Terry McLaurin made a great play when he had to. Guys were catching the ball. Not making mistakes, not turning the ball over, capitalizing on defense. How many interceptions did Goff throw? I think he threw four.
Three
Three.
or turnovers. Yeah.
Jamo had a pick, and I think Goff fumbled as well, if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken. Five turnovers is crazy, right? So all this being said, Commanders, I want to hear your thoughts on them versus the Eagles. I don't want to hear your thoughts necessarily, maybe on Jaden Daniels and what he did because it is special. But what's next for this Detroit Lions team? I mean, you go from being the surprise and like, oh shit, we're here finally, versus a very good 49ers team who was pretty healthy last year. And, you lost in the second half. Great game. Now the expectation is there. You go, you do the expected and succeed expectations or exceed expectations. And you got coach crying at the podium after the game. What's next for this team?
I mean, you said Ben Johnson going to Chicago. Aaron Glenn maybe going to the Jets after that performance. Uh,
Hey, I'll say real quick. The Colts just hired Coach Lou from DC from the Bengals. So I mean, I'm right there. I'm right there with you, bro.
at least he won't be DC. Uh, but no, uh, Dan Campbell's established a culture and an identity there that I don't think there's a lot to like worry about in the sense of like, can we get back? I do think is the question it becomes, is there a ceiling with Jared Goff as your quarterback? Uh where can we go from there? He's been to a
Okay.
Super Bowl. He's been to a
Right.
Super Bowl,
Right.
so there's no discounting that he can get you there. But has this team like is this team just a regular season team or can they go compete and
Hmm.
Jared Goff not make bad plays in the playoffs? I think David Montgomery coming back almost hurt the team, and I love David Montgomery. Like I think he, even in Chicago, I thought he was underutilized. We see now that he was, um, and I'm glad that he's found success.
Absolutely.
I just think he wasn't 100%, and I think him being out there
Yep.
almost hurt them more than it helped them.
Yep.
If he was at 100%, you could argue that that game could have been both teams in the 40s, and who knows who won.
Yeah.
Because when they do have that run game going, that offense is humming, and I think that doesn't allow Goff to make as many mistakes. But they had to keep up with Washington and they had to be able to throw the football, and Goff just wasn't able to do that as well as he was able to during the regular season. So um, tough loss for Detroit. I'm sure, once the expectations are the expectation in the regular season, and once you get there, all year that it's the Super Bowl. But when you win 15 games in the regular season, the expectation becomes, oh shit, this is real. We can really do
Yep.
this. Um,
Yep.
and I'm sure that's how it felt in Detroit's first time, uh, best regular season in franchise history. So, first time I'm sure that the fans felt that there was a real chance. First time I'm sure that the franchise felt that there was a real chance. And so the emotions, obviously, on Dan Campbell in that situation are gonna, uh, you know, come out to play. And but I feel like he's done a hell of a job there. Especially you look at Dan Campbell when he took over as the Dolphins interim coach, and
Yeah.
there I felt like at the time there was a lot of jokes because the man Campbell thing and the it was just like, is he a real football coach or is he just like a
It's just a
weightlifter?
juice
Like
head. Yeah.
yeah. And I think he's shown at the end of the day he can lead a locker room, and really he's established that culture there, biting kneecaps. Unfortunately, didn't protect their kneecaps on Saturday.
Yeah.
But
I mean, but let me ask you this, Kev. I love Dan Campbell and what he's been able to do for the Lions organization. I do believe he is a head coach in this league and can win. I do believe he can win. He can lead a team to victory. Clear as day, 15-2 on the year. Unfortunately, this is not this is so far under the expectation that I don't want it to be excused. And I don't want us to look at this like, yo, Jaden Daniels is such a superstar, which he is. We have to look at two things can be true. But Dan Campbell ain't getting the job done. And that's not okay. And I feel like it can't be talked about so lightly because of his emotion and how he shows humility. I respect that. But that doesn't win us the football game. And my thing is, Kev, I don't want to go so far into next year's playoffs and talk about who's going to win the Super Bowl next year. We haven't gotten there. But if the Lions don't, and they lose a first or second round, I mean, who do you blame? Because you spoke about is Jared Goff not the answer, and Jared Goff has all the blame pie. Yeah, like you give him the pie first, say like eat as much as you can, and we'll eat the rest, and then like give it to Dan after that, I guess, or coach. But the Lions, I mean, Amon Ra had 137 yards. Jameer Gibbs rushed for 100 yards. He had 70 yards catching. He had two rushing touchdowns. Now, there were points of the game where I feel like coaching, you get too cute. And that's been the Lions' MO. And we've said that. But what's also the Lions' MO? Coming up short. They haven't won. They haven't shown that this is the Super Bowl winning formula. And so for me, I have an issue with it, especially when you're down. How much were they down, Kev? 10 points in the fourth quarter, and you wide receiver pass, bro. That's to me, that's jokes. That's jokes. Like Ben Johnson, as well of a coach as he is, and as great I think he's gonna be able to do with Caleb Williams and see what that's gonna be. In that spot right there, if Dan Campbell, I don't know if they're running it by him but it's just like at one point, we gotta just play football and try to beat these guys over, trying to make this super cool play. And if we do it, we're heroes. But this is what it looks like when you don't.
And it's funny you say getting too cute because I thought that's exactly what Washington did on that 4th and 1 with that they went for and got
Mm.
stopped.
Mm,
And I thought at that moment Detroit came down and scored the first 7 points of the game, and I'm thinking they just gave the game away. Like Detroit's going to
mm.
ride this
Yeah,
momentum out.
possession wise, yeah.
Jaden Daniels ended up, you know, playing a hell of a game and being poised and remained calm, and he really was an elite quarterback. But going back to that fourth down play, like you bring in Mariota for a 4th and 1, and I know they've been doing it all season, but the offense was moving the football. They just got
Yeah.
they needed 1 yard on fourth down. Uh, roll like to me, roll with it in that situation. Like keep your offense on the field and let Jaden Daniels go make a play. He was making them the whole drive. So um yeah, I didn't like that call, and I thought that that was going to swing the game completely because it seemed like Washington was moving the ball with ease, which they were, and obviously ended up remaining to be able to do so. So
Yeah.
that was it's funny you said they got too cute because I thought that's exactly what Washington did, and I thought it almost at the time I thought it was going to cost them the game, but uh, Jaden Daniels had other things to say about that. So
Yeah. And I don't want to discount Jaden Daniels and the performance that Washington was able to put on, because we're not going to get into it so much here. We want to talk about everything else. It's so surprising what the Lions did and how they came out, and turned the ball over and made as many mistakes as they did, and just basically played an opposite brand of Lions football in their first round matchup at home. So it was a little painful to see. But let's talk about the other NFC championship contender, and that's Philadelphia. I think they escaped Lincoln Financial in the snow in a game where they could have lost, but also did enough things for themselves to win. So I want to start with the defense and giving credit on the defensive side of the ball, because when it mattered, I mean, what's this guy's name? Jalen Carter. Like, you drafted him at the ninth slot. Obviously, he fell. and Roseman was not going to let an opportunity like that pass him by. Kev, I don't know if you know Howie Roseman at all, but we knew when the draft was coming. Hey, if Carter's there when the Eagles are picking, well, guess what, guys? We're screwed. And so we're seeing it all in real time now, and how he's such a game wrecker alongside the rest of that defensive line.
I think he traded up for him too, didn't he?
I think he did. I think they were at
Yeah,
17,
because I was hoping that
and
the Jets.
yeah,
I was hoping he fell to the Jets, but
I think he was at 17 and they went to 9 and got him. So, um, yeah, with all that being said, in the biggest time of the game when they needed a stop, who comes through? Jalen Carter gets a sack on Stafford and kind of shakes the whole thing up, and now puts the Rams in fourth down mode. And we got to call our best play right here. And that was such an icing on the cake to a performance that the Eagles can be really proud of, because when you look at it, the Rams, you know, they went and put up 400 yards, right? They went and put up 400 total yards of offense, but they were only to get, they were only able to get in the end zone a few times. And for me, the biggest thing for the Eagles and for what they're going to be able to do defensively is complement it with Saquon Barkley. If they can do that, if they can get this performance from their defense where, Stafford only gets into the end zone two times, you two touchdowns. You guys got two touchdowns. You can kick a field goal or two, but you got two touchdowns most. And you give us what we're giving you, or we give you the Saquon we get 200 yards, 170 yards. You know that's a unbeatable formula in my opinion. So this is why when everybody says like we got noise with Hurts as far as him throwing for 128 yards, no touchdowns. We got noise with, is the offense even doing enough? Listen, the number one defense in the league will go into your house or defend theirs and say, if you can't put up more than two touchdowns, good luck winning, and also good luck stopping all pro league leading rusher Saquon Barkley, who had another, I think, 78-yard run and another 62-yard run to seal the deal. Kev, just I didn't really got a question for you. I just want to hear some thoughts on what you got from this game, because this was a good game and it came down to the last seconds.
yeah. And I think if it wasn't snowing, the game might have gone differently.
Mm.
Puka Nakua was not Puka Nakua. He
Ooh,
was dropping passes. He did not look. I mean,
ooh.
I was almost surprised they didn't start looking at Cooper Cup more, because Cooper Cup was making some catches that it looked like he wasn't going to make.
Yeah,
So I think they almost went to him too late, because I think he made three catches in the fourth quarter and only had two up until that point. So, or maybe it was three in the set. I don't know. But either way, I thought, uh, just bad drops all around. Tyler Higbee had a few bad drops. Puka, which is so uncharacteristic of Puka, was a big drop, and then Stafford on that fourth down pass, like, and it's tough to say because Puka did all look
yeah.
uncomfortable
I
just
mean,
running his routes and
that
getting in and
pressure,
out.
you know what I'm saying, is that pressure, bro.
But that fourth down pass to Puka was off. Puka got open, but again, tough.
Yeah.
He looked like he was open, but he looked slower than he normally does coming out of his
Hmm.
break. So who's to say, even if Stafford put it down the sideline where
Yeah.
he wanted to, that Puka would have been able to get there. But um, yeah, I love that they made it interesting at the end with the stop on the defensive possession to get the ball back, and then the big catch to come down the field and set up, in the red zone and try to get something going. But like you said, Jalen Carter, big sack to push him back, and then you had to go from there, and just couldn't make the plays at the end. So thought the Rams had a great season, and I was rooting for them. I thought that they could pull that win off, especially there at the end. So it was tough to see them on that last play with the I would have liked to see if Puka could have got there at least if
Yeah.
Stafford placed a better ball.
Like I said, I mean, Stafford was playing pretty good, and it was snowing. There were conditions, but listen, there was pressure, right? He hikes the ball, he takes a couple steps, and he's got to let it rip. And unfortunately, Much like the Eagles, game-winning defensive drives end in a sack or some sort of QB pressure that leads to an interception or some sort of bad news for the offense. So
And it's similar to the Baltimore game, just turnovers. Like
I
that's what's
was I
going to
was
cost
gonna
you.
mention that next. I was gonna
That
say that
the
fumble
Kyron
right there.
Williams fumble, the
He fumbled twice, didn't he?
yeah. So you know, you protect the ball, especially in the postseason. You got a better chance to win. And when you turn it over more than the other team, especially
All
when
right,
the other team's
so
not turning it over, it's you know,
let's check this here. We know that the turnover battle was won by the Eagles, right? Rams had two fumbles. They won the game, Philadelphia. Did they? And if we look at the Commanders, obviously we know they did, but I want to get the numbers here. 5 turnovers it was. Yeah, Lions lost that game. Let's take things over to the AFC real quick. Before we wrap things up, we'll probably just talk about quick what we want to see from the AFC NFC championships. But let's wrap up divisional weekend here, Kev. Kansas City, man, they don't lose. They don't lose. They don't know how. It's not in their what do they what is the Twitter term now? They say that's not in my ministry. That's not in their ministry to lose. And so
that's how you know
um
I'm old. By the way, like you know,
hey,
okay, that's if
you never heard that one.
anybody watching, when people start telling you stuff from TikTok and Twitter that you just don't hear about or you don't know, that's when you know it's over.
Yeah, yeah.
Pack it up. We're going
Let
home.
let me let me be the first to say this with our observations of turnovers and how they will win or lose you a game. Because before I'll do spoiler alert, the Bills, won the turnover battle in that game and ended up winning. But there were zero turnovers in this game, in this Chiefs Texans beautiful football game. We got a lot of great possessions offensively and defensively from each team. Well, we didn't get so many great offensive possessions from the Texans, but we got a couple, and we got a lot of great defensive possessions from that Texans team, much like we got from the Chiefs. I mean, to me, if you ask, you go 8 sacks, 8 sacks. CJ Stroud is never going to have a chance. I said this last week. I thought Chris Jones was going to be the main factor, which Chris Jones is a factor every game because you have to put another body. You have to just give that much more attention to him. And it's going to give those guys around him the opportunities. And the opportunities came, and guys like George Karlaftis had 3 sacks of his own and took advantage of the opportunities. So major credit to that front seven for getting home on CJ Stroud and really he was frustrated. I mean, one applause to CJ Stroud because he played a really good game for the hand he was dealt, the injuries he was dealing with, the receivers were going down. Um, he took 8 sacks and lost 60 yards off of it. Was still only able to complete. He only missed 9 passes, and so I just want to take note of what's going on. 245 yards on that defense. The Texans were not supposed to win that game yesterday, right? And we didn't think it was going to be as close maybe as it was. And Kev, I have to mention the referees had two big calls on third down that really shouldn't have been called. And I talked to my uncle. My uncle supports the Chiefs. He supports the Eagles as well. He likes Saquon and Patrick Mahomes, right? So I'm like, man, yo, I listen. When we talk shit about Knicks basketball, Heat Knicks in the playoffs and all this, and I was one of my biggest things was like, yo, stop telling me what the refs did, man. Stop telling me the refs won the game for you. Stop telling me that. And so I don't ever want to go into a debate with like, oh, the refs helped, the refs won the game for y'all. The refs did it because the Chiefs won this game with the refs help for sure. But you can also argue that they could have won without it. And it's neither here nor there, but the point is you can still make the argument. It's not like they, were getting whooped all game. Now, Kevin, I want you to counter that because I know what you feel as far as the outgaining. Or was that in terms of the Buffalo game? Did you text us earlier?
Buffalo, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, if we look at this game too, I mean, they only ran the ball for 50 yards and threw for 177, the Chiefs, that is. So on paper, they didn't. do so great, but it's about making timely game winning plays, and that's what they do so well. So I say all that to say the referees, in my opinion, they don't win games for the Chiefs. The Chiefs don't win because of the referees, but the referees do seem to want to help the Chiefs every time they can or every time they play. And so the conflict in that becomes teams understand, we're going to have to go against the other guys as well. And we heard sound offs from Joe Mixon and Will Anderson regarding the refs. I mean, Joe Mixon said clear as day, like, listen, I know we could have made more plays to impact winning on this game, but it's just like everybody sees it, like it's hard to ignore. And Will Anderson shared the same sentiment as well. And it sucks because you don't want to be labeled as a sore loser or anything like that when those are the first words you go to after a tough playoff loss. But you got to also take a step back and see it. I mean, third down, you give them a free, the first one, you know what? I'll give it to you. He hit him high. Will Anderson hit him high, and from behind. It probably looked like he got him right in the face mask. It was bang bang, and you protecting the quarterback at the end of the day. You're setting the tone for the playoff game. I'm not too mad at that, but it was a huge play because they got the first down on their first drive. Now you go fast forward into I don't know if this was the late third quarter or the early fourth quarter, but
It was
uh,
the drive that went extended into the it was third quarter into the fourth quarter.
that's exactly what it was. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, Mahomes is going running around, and he does this thing where I love it because it kind of fools the defense. He's past the line of scrimmage, but he's still holding the ball like he's like looking to throw, and he's like kind of head up, pump faking, and at this point, he's a legal runner, which quarterbacks still have the protection where they can slide, but he slides because he has nowhere to go, nobody's open, doesn't want to go out of bounds, and he's kind of in an awkward position where he can't just slide forward. He slides to the left. I mean, you're gonna blame three guys for trying to make a play, kind of not knowing where the quarterback's even going. Like, at what point does the quarterback have to take responsibility for how he's running? And the referees just let it play out. And that third down ended up being really big. And so it sucks to see it. It really does because football is not this. We saw in the biggest game of the season, Kev, Super Bowl 2022, 2023, where Kansas City got a holding call, right? Was it a holding or a pass interference?
Yep.
It was a good call. I mean, it was the right call. We hated to see it, but it was the right call. And that type of stuff, you hate to see that the player made that type of play, i.e., Mark Andrews. Can't do anything about it. But the refs, you don't want to impact the game when the player didn't make the reason to call. Kev, give me your thoughts on what you saw with this Kansas City team in the Houston game, um, and going forward for Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean, like the second um unnecessary roughness was a weak call. I even said it watching it. I was actually watching it on my phone on the way to the airport, and they threw the flag. And I was like, oh, it's a weak. That's a weak flag. Like that's a. It's like you said, he's dancing around. Decided to slide last. They honestly hit each other worse than they
Yeah,
hit Mahomes. So you know, we call if they don't hit each other, it's probably not no call. Like if they fly over each other, it's probably nothing called there because I think just the sound of their helmets colliding made the refs think they hit Mahomes' helmet, and so I think that's the reason the flag came out because they literally didn't even maybe grazed Mahomes on that
yeah,
play, but there was nothing to it. But then they end up getting a fourth and one Kansas City getting into a fourth and one on that same drive, and Houston can't stop them. So you had the opportunity even after that to stop them on fourth down and get the ball back, and you weren't able to do so. So yeah, I mean, special teams at the end of the day is what cost Houston the game. Opening kickoff return goes uh for 63 yards, and then you have a stupid penalty where he's taking his helmet off and throwing it right after the play, give him another 15 yards on that play. You come back and tie the game, but you don't tie the game because your kicker misses an extra point. You have a missed field goal. Like the Texans special teams cost him this game. Uh,
That is true.
The blocked field goal, like it's
Yeah.
so that because you look if you were just look at the box score team stats, you think Houston went into Kansas City and won the game. Like
Yeah.
they've outgained them everywhere. More first downs, time dominated time of possession almost by 7 minutes. Um, Only difference special teams. Special
Yeah.
teams doesn't come up in the box score like that. So um, that and the penalties. I mean, 8 for 82 yards versus 4 for 29, and that does go to the rest. But we talked about those two big ones, and then the
Yeah.
obvious first 15 yarder. I mean, set the tone for the game. You coming up running off the field. What is the point of throwing your helmet off of after you just gave up a 63-yard
Yeah.
return? What did like I don't know what the celebration is, and then going shoving your coach on the sideline is
Yeah.
uh
Insane, bro.
crazy.
Insane. I've never seen that. And for him, I don't know. Like that to me, that's a fireable offense. I don't know. Like
100%.
where do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Why do you feel like that you're necessary or able to do this? You made a great play. What the fuck? Now you put the Chiefs for their first drive of the game on the 13-yard line, and so yeah, it sucks, but if you're Houston, not for everybody else, sucks if you're Houston because this was a really winnable game, but you have to give credit to Spags and the defense he was able to dial up because he kept them out that end zone for real, man. They were only, Joe Mixon had that late rushing touchdown, but it was closed up. So shout out to them, man. They made it happen. They are going for their three-peat, and they're gonna have to beat Josh Allen again again. And this one feels a little different if you're um, any part of the Bills mafia or Josh Allen himself. I'm sure he feels like this one's a bit different. And he also said that he'd see that Chiefs team again when it matters. Well, here's the rematch. We've seen some classics from these two, regular season and in the playoffs. I think both of these teams right now are at the highest of their game. Like the Chiefs, to me, they've figured out winning. That's the biggest takeaway from this season I can say about the Chiefs. Whether it looks like this, whether it looks like that, whether it is ugly, whether it is clean, whether it is the refs, whatever the case is, and let me be clear, Patrick Mahomes made an amazing play to really, really win that game with a diving, falling touchdown to Kelsey. Like that's the reason the Chiefs are who they are, and he is who he is. So
Insane.
it's
That was
it's
a
not,
strike.
yeah, bro. It's like we get it twisted a lot, and all those plays right there. When Kelsey gets the ball in the middle of the field and stops and does a turnaround and gets 7 to 9 more yards, like those winning plays right there are the reason. And shout out to Xavier Worthy, rookie coming up in the clutch early in the game, and he had a good play later on as well. So
I
all
watched
around.
I
Mhm.
watched that play. Like I said, I was going to the airport. I'm watching on my phone, so it's not as big a screen. So I see Mahomes getting tackled and releasing the ball, falling forward. And I didn't even see Kelsey catch it. Like I'm just looking like,
Yeah,
where's the ball? And
yeah,
then Kelsey ends up with the ball.
yo.
That
I
was insane.
mean, like I said, they have figured out winning at every facet, and so that to me is why I have confidence in them being able to go into this Bills um, game at home and secure that. But that's next week. That's next week. We still got to talk about the heartbreaking, gut wrenching loss from the Baltimore Ravens, a letdown, and one that's gonna kind of I think sting for some time and be heard for some years because this year felt different to me. If you're and I know I just said that about Buffalo, but it does. It does. I think both of these teams right now are at the highest. Baltimore has everything they need at their disposal to win games every week. Buffalo makes good and useful with everything they have to win games. And the name of this one was obviously and clearly the turnovers, right? There's no other way to look at this game than saying, well, if if Lamar Jackson doesn't throw that stupid interception or fumble that ball trying to be the hero, and technically he wasn't trying to be the hero. He did explain that he was trying to just kind of grip the ball a little harder, but slippery conditions. However, you're trying to make two plays out of one play because you already made the play where you save the bad snap. At that point, you got to try to go down, take a sack. But neither here nor there. Andrews drop, Andrews fumble, Andrews drop. What I don't want to do is blame everything on Mark Andrews, blame everything on Lamar Jackson. This was a team effort loss. Why are you laughing?
I just you said you don't want to blame everything on Mark Andrews, and in my head I was like, I will.
I hear you, and I hear you well. I hear you well, and I'm thankful for those that will and are going to hold him to that. I can't do it, but I'm thankful for those that do. And what I will say about those individuals, because this was a team losing effort, is what I will say. But to those individuals, Lamar and Mark, Lamar Jackson is the MVP of this league. Lamar Jackson is, if not the best player, the second best player right after Patrick Mahomes in this league. Actually, yes, the second best. I'm not going to put him over Patrick Mahomes or think about it. He came back in the second half and made up for everything he did in the first half, and he wrote all his wrongs. Like he was like, you know what? And the defense, hold on, and the defense did too. Guess who didn't? Mark Andrews. Like you had a chance to redeem yourself. You dropped the ball in the first half on that drive. Right after was the fumble that they returned and then ended up scoring 7. You have a chance. You make a big play. You fumble. You're doing the Zay Flowers. Oh shit, not again. You know what? Lamar got us again. They drop an amazing play. I mean, they're complaining about this play on Twitter. It didn't work 3 times. They used it each fucking time. The play was there to be made, and so I think it's a pretty good play call. So they're doing it again. Trusted source, man. And listen, all I'm gonna say is Kelsey would have caught that ball. That's it. That's it. Kelsey would have caught that ball.
I would have caught that ball.
And yeah, me too.
Isaiah likely would have
Likely
caught
would have.
that ball.
Patrick
So
Ricard would have caught. Derrick Henry would not have caught that ball. By the way, I
yeah,
didn't mention
no,
him.
he
Derrick Henry
probably
did
would
get the
not have.
drop as well in the first half.
I will
He
say
did
though,
make his, but Derrick Henry made it up in the second half too. But
and I'll say at least they finished that drive with 7. Like at least you go down and you got 7. Like so, all right, you dropped the pass. You could have scored. You could have scored quicker. You didn't. You still got 7. The Mark Andrews thinking he's Garrett Wilson at midfield and trying to like what do we just turn up field and go? Uh that was annoying. And Buffalo, credit to Baltimore defense holding them to 3, and then Lamar coming down the field and like, and we talk about like Lamar's mistakes, bad interception. Like I don't know what was happening
yeah,
on that interception.
well,
Didn't
from
result.
what I saw, it was like it was another pressure thing where he has to he's get he it's a corner route and now he
Yeah,
has to guess basically if the safety, and it's more so he shouldn't have thrown it because of the pressure.
right.
You're supposed to take a
Yeah,
sack, you know,
yeah. Or run. That's what you do
or
best. You
get
do
out of
better
there.
than
Yeah,
any.
get out of
You
there,
do it
right?
better than anybody in the league.
Yeah,
Um, but does doesn't result in points. So almost that was almost like a punt.
yeah,
Uh, regardless, the fumble obviously terrible leads to 7 on the other end. 7 or 3. 7 leads to 7. So obviously, but that fumble by Lamar, the fumble by Mark Andrews, and the drop by Mark Andrews, the 2-point conversion, that's the game. Yeah, to me, Baltimore played a better game of football.
yeah,
They
hundred
held
percent. They
Josh
did.
Allen to 124 yards passing. I think. Am I? I think that's right.
I
But
get you right. I get you right now. Hold on.
he so I, I don't know. Like I think they 127 yards passing for Josh Allen. 147 yards rushing on 36 attempts. That's 4.1 yards per carry. They weren't anything. Baltimore averaged 5.9 yards a carry. Like
Yeah.
nothing Buffalo did was impressive to
No,
the
no, no,
point
no,
that
no. What they did that was impressive to the point that dot 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 was not turn the ball over or make a goddamn mistake. and that's
Right.
pretty impressive
That's
against that Ravens defense. You know.
and that's the difference when you make stupid turnovers. You make
Hmm.
stupid turnovers
Hmm.
and you don't get them
Hmm.
back.
Stupid
That's going to be
mistakes
the
too,
difference in the
because
game.
that's the Ravens, bro. That's the Ravens in the playoffs. Like they don't like we don't see like that one pick six that he read that route and jumped it. It's like Lamar Jackson got his hand out. Oh, they slapped the ball out of his hand. Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, like it's these timely bad. You can't have this right now. You know what I mean? And they tend to fold in those moments. But I'm not gonna go so far to say like everybody is responsible for that in the Ravens organization. I mean, they are winners over there, but man, it just hurts. It hurts, that we're gonna have to wait another year to see because it feels like it's inevitable for Lamar Jackson. And I think that if the Ravens just and Lamar Jackson play it to the point of listen, we are till death do us part, like Lamar should be a Raven for his entire career, and he will eventually eclipse what he's looking for, and they'll get the right pieces around him for the right year, and maybe they'll do it twice, but I think they just got to stick with it, and the formula is the formula, bro. Like run the ball, formulate the offense around Lamar, have athletes at that wide receiver position who can move around and get a. I'm not gonna say that, but yeah, man, I think they're fine. It's just I'm not going to go so far to criticize them as everybody else is. Like, oh, Lamar, listen, it's tough, bro. We're talking about Josh Allen. We're talking about Patrick Mahomes. Now we got and we Joe Burrow's not even a competitor this year. We're not even talking about somebody like Jaden Daniels getting in here, for the first time. Like this league is full of talent, and so it's something to be proud of and be hopeful for. But you can't look at it and say, like if the Bills lose this year, bro, I mean, if the Bills lose and the Chiefs win again, I mean, it's just destiny at this point. And I'm not going to go so far to say Josh Allen's never going to win a Super Bowl. He can't win. Maybe he can't beat the Chiefs, bro. He can't beat the Chiefs. That's
But
really what it is.
everyone has said that about Lamar. And so it's funny the narratives that come around that are around Lamar Jackson but aren't applied to Josh Allen.
Right,
But
right.
there,
And so
I mean,
I
a
think we
lot
don't
of
have to apply either of them though, because in this league, it takes a special group of 53 to go all the way for real. And when you got the continuity, the comfort level, the quarterback, the tight end, and the defense that the Chiefs do year in and year out. Unfortunately, it's the Golden State effect, and it's hard to beat that team right now, or the LeBron effect, if you will. And if you're
or
in
the
that
Jordan
conference,
effect.
yeah, you're in
A
that
lot of
conference,
guys
you,
didn't win
you can't
championships
get
because of one
past
guy.
that shit, bro. And right now, they got it, and so you have to, as an organization, take it seriously enough the way they do to build the way they've built, and that's the only way you can go about it. You have to get a quarterback, obviously, and things will fall around that. But I'm not going to discredit Josh Allen for losing next week if they lose. I mean, Josh Allen for where he's come and brought this team this year, it's been a hell of a goddamn season.
And I do believe that if Josh Allen was to win the Super Bowl, he'd have it no other way than beating Kansas City on his way to doing so.
And I hope they see like I had so much storylines. We're gonna get into this next on Thursday actually because we've got Josh Allen and the Bills finally. You know what I'm saying? Finally would be amazing to get to that Super Bowl and win it. Um, Kansas City can go to their third straight and win their third straight, first team ever. We can see the Eagles maybe even in a rematch versus the Chiefs getting their revenge, right? Nick Sirianni versus Reed again. And we could even go back to Jaden Daniels being a rookie and taking this Commanders team to the Super Bowl. Like, what is this? So it's been crazy. Divisional week was wild. Championship weekend is going to be fun. I think we're going to get two really good football games because part three of the Eagles Commanders from this year, we're going to get that. And then we have like part three, four, or five of this Bills Chiefs hatred rivalry that is going to be in Kansas City again, and we don't even know what the weather is going to look like by this time next week. So a lot of stuff to stay tuned for. Kev, I don't know before closing thoughts. You got anything before we get out of here?
Uh, I don't think so. I already told Sasaki what he can do. So
Hey, I want to say this, bro. I hope we can facilitate a deal that can get us something of value in return. I don't like the look of Jimmy Butler, and this unhappiness on the bench, even when your teammates are at their all-time highs of happy. We're seeing Bam and Ware get minutes, and everybody's clicking, and it just feels like a bad energy, and I don't like it. So
He's doing the
shout out to
thing
Jimmy.
that he does. He's doing the thing he does to
Yeah,
get
yeah, it's the
traded.
thing he's doing, and
He's
and
walking
we
out
don't
onto
want
the
to.
court. He's walking out onto the court before they call
Bro,
his
it's so
name in the
whack.
extra
It's so
rows.
whack,
It's
bro. It's so whack, bro. And then posting that on the gram. Do what you got to do. But Pat Riley, do what you have to do as well, please. Now, don't screw us, but we got it. Something. I don't.
hey,
I don't know. Kev, what's up?
Bam at the four is here now. I think
Yeah,
Spo saw
yeah,
enough
yeah.
yesterday.
I
So
think he saw enough. I hope he did. I mean, he's
I
stubborn,
think
but
so.
hopefully he did. Brady Hawk we'll relay the information to Brady, and Brady will get it to fucking Spo. So, Kev, with that being said, enjoy the national championship, bro. I hope
As
everybody
well.
that was listening enjoyed the show. Appreciate you guys in the comments. Yo, Ray, I didn't tap in with the comments today. Forgive me. We will fuck with y'all.